Welcome, everybody, to the X Factor podcast. And today we are discussing X Factor Heroes.
Heroes. Yep.
So, after X Factor numbers, Pie Boy over there. I don't know who his X Factor hero is. Weinstein, Epstein.
Really?
Jared from Subway.
Really?
Bill Cosby. I don't know. I don't know who it is.
How about Archimedes?
Archimedes. I don't know who he is either, but I am sure John is going to dazzle you and surprise you with his X Factor hero. But before we kick that off, I feel a moral obligation to tell you to go drink some Bottom Gun coffee.
Absolutely.
Coach Brew, never heard of Bottom Gun coffee. Where can I get it? Hey, listener, great question. Thanks for asking. You go to bottomguncoffee.com. Get you some right there. Order it online. They'll send it right to your door, just like all those other delivery services that promise quick delivery. And they just take all the complexity and the inconvenience out of the experience for you. And I think it's actually a drone that just drops it right on your back porch. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they practically brew the coffee for you. It's that convenient and easy, and it'll make you smarter and better looking. So yeah, I'm really glad you asked. You go to bottomguncoffee.com, sign up for their service, and you can thank me later.
Good stuff.
Forgive me, I'm snacking while we record this episode, John.
You know what's amazing is you're such a professional at this that, if you hadn't said it, no one would even known. You just kept it going. Nobody even knew that you stopped and took a bite of that licorice or whatever it was.
Turkey jerky.
Turkey jerky. Okay.
Turkey perky jerky.
Perky turkey jerky?
That too.
Nice.
So before we jump into the podcast, let's we're going to file this under random that I get texted. Okay? Just got a text from my 83-year-old mother.
All right.
Can't make this up. You ready? Do you know of any horse stables and black cowboys in the Philadelphia slums? What?
Well,
I don't even know how to respond to that. I've ignored it. I haven't responded because I don't even know what to say. The only thing more bizarre and scary than her sending that to me would be if that was a legitimate question she had for someone else. No idea who that would be or why. How should I respond to that, folks?
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I think that could be a segment in the show is random texts from Coach Brew's mom.
What do I say to that? I'm going to let Parker answer.
I would just say, are you looking for Lil Nas X?
Lil Nas X.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about just the ones who wear those assless chaps?
Do it.
Just the ones.
Oh my goodness.
Assless. Is that one word or two or hyphenated?
I think it's
assless.
Yeah, hyphenated.
Chaps.
I'm not going to look it up though.
Why do you ask? Mom.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, when she answers, we'll come back to that. But today's episode is about X Factor heroes.
Yes.
And we had to get a little clarification on heroes, because that could take a couple different forms. And when we were deciding if this would be a topic, my co-host JR said, as long as you're not choosing Aquaman.
Yeah.
And I said, no, not like superheroes, like characters, like actual human beings, real people, you know? And besides, who the hell does Aquaman think he is? Does he think he's like a submarine?
Yeah.
Like, who does he think? Why do you, what's the axe you have to grind with Aquaman, John? First of all.
So I have a real problem with both Aquaman and Spider-Man. Yeah, I have a feeling like if there's something bad happening,
Do you have arachnophobia? Fear of
no, I don't
spiders?
care. I don't care about.
Arachnophobia?
Yeah, I don't care about spiders so much. I just think that they're whatever their superhero traits are useless if they were, say, maybe fighting in a field in Nebraska. Like they would literally have no skills for that circumstance. Whereas guys like Superman have skills for all types of, underwater, in space, what have you. But you've got two superheroes that are limited to, well, where's a building where I can attach my web to, or where's a puddle of water I can breathe in to talk to the, frogs in the pond or something. So I just feel
I was
like
just curious. Yeah.
they have limited superpowers.
You want to know why I think Aquaman has always had very limited commercial appeal?
Why is that?
And I guarantee you, if you looked up like the merch sales and toys and action figures and T-shirts and everything, like, I guarantee you, he has one of the lower sort of, like, I don't know, revenue, whatever you want to call it. Like, if superheroes
compared
had,
to like Superman and Batman and stuff.
yeah, if superheroes had like Q scores to rate their celebrity, his is going to be really low because, like, if you're a kid, all you got to do is get a red towel or a little blanket and wrap it around your neck, and you get a Superman cape.
Yeah.
And you can go play Superman anywhere. Batman, same thing. Spider-Man, same thing. With Aquaman, you can only be Aquaman like in a pool.
Right.
And that's assuming you know how to swim.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't be fun to like be Aquaman in your own bathtub because you're probably alone. Like, so there's no one to really hang out and play with. So like they've, by his very nature, like, designed something that's going to have limited commercial appeal.
Yep, I agree. It's sad. I mean, I'd like to like Aquaman, but he's limited. Yep. But we're not talking about superheroes. We're talking about real heroes, real people.
Well, my mom's one of my heroes because she just redeemed herself on this text thread. So she doesn't react at all to my, just the ones who wear those assless chaps.
Why do you ask that?
Yeah, she ignored that. She just said, I'm watching a movie, Concrete Cowboy, about the Fletcher Street stables, based on a true story. I had no idea. Don't know how true the details are. Slow moving film. So it's like she's like Siskel and Ebert wrapped up in like a woman.
Yeah.
So you just got a review of the movie and now you don't have to bother to see it yourself. But
seems like the movie with the assless chaps would be more entertaining.
100%, right? Yeah. Like Magic Mike in the Hood with horses. Yeah.
I like it.
So she redeemed herself. It's not some freaky, kinky, strange text. She was watching a movie.
That makes sense now.
Thank God. So yeah, X Factor heroes who aren't superheroes. John, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'd like to go first. We started the podcast talking about Bottom Gun Coffee. It's a coffee company made and delivered and produced by submarine veterans. It's our sponsor of this podcast. So I'm going to talk about a submarine veteran, someone that is an X Factor hero. In fact, he's really the largest hero in the submarine community. And it's Richard, and he also goes by Dick O'Kane. And
Dick Cocaine. His name is really Dick Cocaine.
Not Dick Cocaine. It's Dick O'Kane.
How large is he? I mean, is there a weight limit on submarines? Isn't there a weight limit to enlist?
I'm sure there is, but back then they were just happy to have anyone on a submarine in World War II. So I don't know at that point.
So how many kilos is Dick Cocaine?
How do you spell his last name?
It's O'Kane. It's like O and Kane, like with a K.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to call him Richard O'Kane from now on.
I think that's much better.
Yeah, but he's known as Dick. Anyways, he was born in New Hampshire. That's why I have a connection to him. And he was a
Of
World War
course.
II submariner. And he was awarded the Medal of Honor for commanding the USS Tang in the World War II in the Pacific. And
The USS what?
Tang. Jeez.
So his name is Dick Cocaine, and he commanded the Tang during the war.
Yes. He was the XO of the
You're making this up.
I'm not making this up. These are legendary stories, and you're making
Oh,
fun of them.
Obviously.
I mean, all right. He would before he was on the Tang, he was on the Wahoo.
What? I got promoted to the Tang. I cannot believe you're taking us down this dark, dark road. We're supposed to be having a serious conversation about X Factor heroes, and you're making up some cockamamie story about Dick Cocaine.
Yes. This story involves cribbage, by the way.
See what I did there? Cockamamie?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm 100% with you. So, all right, we're gonna talk about O'Kane, Richard O'Kane. He participated in more successful attacks on Japanese shipping than any other submarine officer during the war. He did 10 combat patrols in World War II, 5 on the Wahoo, and 5 as the commanding officer of the Tang. He was the XO on the Wahoo, the executive officer. Now he served into the legendary. His name was Dudley. I'm not going to give you these names. You're just going to.
You're gonna give me his name.
He served under the legendary commander Dudley Mush Morton, and he. Jeez, here we go. And on the Wahoo, and the Wahoo was one of the most celebrated submarines in World War II, and they sank 19 Japanese ships, and it was actually more than any other submarine at the time, at least before the Wahoo. I'm sorry, before the Tang. So what's interesting?
It wasn't as big as the Tang.
It wasn't as big as the Tang. Yeah, actually, they're the same exact size. But
That's what she said.
Oh, Lord help me. I have no idea where I'm at with the story, but I could tell you this: that Richard O'Kane, he was the executive officer on board the Wahoo.
Yeah, you said that already.
Yeah, with Mush Morton, and get this, they were heading out on on their 4th war patrol. He did 5 patrols in the Wahoo, and they were going to an area that they'd never been before. And it was very shallow. It was called the Yellow Sea, and they were all very Jesus. This isn't going well at all.
You're telling me Dick Cocaine was headed out somewhere he'd never been before on the Tang.
To the Yellow Sea.
And it was shallow.
It was the Yellow Sea.
Holy innuendo.
So it was the first time any submarine would patrol in the shallow water. And so everybody was stressed on board. So the captain, Mush Morton, decided to take on his XO O'Kane in a cribbage tournament. They were going to play cribbage. You guys know what cribbage is at all? It's a very old kind of English card game. It's very popular amongst submariners.
Very popular in Maine.
It's very popular.
I mean, it's like it's a brand. We're so behind the times. It's like cribbage is a brand new game up here.
Yes. Yeah.
So people with their mullets, and I'm talking about the ladies,
yes,
and their members only jackets and their beards, still talking about the ladies, will play cribbage.
Yes, and drink Moxie.
And then when the cribbage game is over, they decided, they'll decide to like go rent something on VHS at Blockbuster.
Yeah, that sounds like Maine.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to play this cribbage game to kind of reduce the stress and get everybody's attention. And it turns out that Mush Morton actually dealt his XO, Dick O'Kane, dealt him a perfect 29 hand, which, if you know anything about cribbage, that's very,
Oh.
very unlikely.
I thought you were going to tell me he beat the hell out of Dick.
No, he did not. So, and the odds are, that's considered to be 1 in 216,000. And the crew felt that it was extremely lucky. And the next day, the Wahoo sank 3 Japanese freighters, and they considered that good luck. 3 days later, they played another cribbage game, and Morton dealt him a 28 hand, which again is really unlikely to happen, because the only thing that's different is the right jack. But that's a whole nother story. But anyways, the next day they sank 2 freighters, and the day after they sank a third one. They sank 3 more ships. So that cribbage board is actually, it's legendary within the submarine community. It's O'Kane's cribbage board, and it's actually still in use in the submarine force today. It's given to the oldest submarine in the Pacific Fleet, and it's carried on board, and it's considered a lucky cribbage board because of that legendary story of where they had these 2 legendary commanders who were served together, and then it had these winning hands, and then they were able to sink these submarines. So anyways, that the O'Kane cribbage board is still in use today, which is kind of a cool story. But I want to tell you a little bit about what happened on when he was on the Tang. He did 5 combat
I'm on the edge of
patrols.
my seat.
He was good. He was on his 5th war patrol, and are you there? In the edge of your seat? So
I am.
All right, and they came across 3 convoys of enemy ships, Japanese ships, and they went up against them in a battle that is considered by many one of the most famous battles in submarine history, in which they fought and sank 13 enemy ships in one battle. And at the end of the battle, though, one of their torpedoes did what's called a circular run. It turned on itself, and it was the torpedoes back then were the Mark 18 torpedoes, were famous for having malfunctions. It turned on itself and ended up sinking the Tang, but he held it all together, and eventually the Tang sunk, and only 8 of the crew survived, and they were held as POWs throughout the rest of the war.
Wow.
They were beaten.
Wow.
They were, held in solitary confinement, beaten, interrogated until the end of the war, and only 5 survived the war from that crew. But on that one patrol, on his 5 patrols in the Tang, he sank 33 enemy ships, and it was like 116,000 tons, and it was the most successful submarine in history in both numbers of ships sunk and tonnage. So this guy was an amazing submarine commander.
Can we
Yeah.
backtrack?
Sure.
So the Tang got sunk because it basically had a boomerang for a torpedo.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said there were survivors.
Correct. Yeah.
5, 8? How many did you say?
There were 8 originally.
Okay.
Survivors originally. Yeah.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
How the hell does anyone survive a submarine being torpedoed, much less sank?
They were on the surface firing guns,
Okay.
and Dick O'Kane was on the surface, and he was getting hammered with gunshots and
So I
mortars
never
going
think
off around.
surface when I think submarine. I would never think that.
So I think everybody on the surface or on top of the submarine, got out, and I think a couple people inside got out before it exploded, but only 5 survived throughout the rest of the war. So, which is pretty incredible. There's any survivors, but anyway, just kind of a legendary guy. And the cribbage board's kind of a cool story because it still exists today, and it's still considered lucky. And I've never actually physically seen it, but that would be an honor someday to actually play a game of cribbage on that lucky cribbage board. But these 2 legendary commanders actually served together on the Wahoo, and eventually Dick O'Kane went on to the Tang, and the rest is history. He was the most decorated submariner in history. So kind of cool guy. So, and he actually lived until 1994. So he survived the war and had a life outside of it. Now his commander, Mush Morton, was killed during World War II, and many of the crews were lost in World War II. So it was a tough business being a submariner in those days.
I mean, just looking online, I researched him a little bit, and He got the Medal of Honor, 3 Navy Crosses, 3 Silver Stars, Legion of Merit, Purple Heart, and a Navy Commendation ribbon.
Yeah. He was
mean,
pretty amazing guy. And then think, you do all that and then you end up in a POW camp. And, when you join the submarine force, you never think I'm going to end up in a POW camp. It's just, you think you're going to either get home or you're going to die. There's no, in between. But
in between.
Yeah. So anyways, legendary Dick O'Kane, and or as you could refer to him, Dick Cocaine. And I think he's Lex Factor because he had tenacity against all odds. When everything was against him, he still fought to the end and ended up surviving the war. So yeah, an incredible guy.
That is impressive by any standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So anyways, my hero is Richard Dick O'Kane. So Coach Brew.
Could have been either of them.
Yeah, actually, I originally was going to have Mush Morton, but I think Dick's story is kind of interesting. So,
yep.
And they were together. And the cribbage board story is what I wanted to get out there because I think that's kind of cool that this legendary cribbage board still exists today. So, so what do you got for us today, Coach Brew?
It's kind of funny, and we say this all the time, but we don't compare.
Right.
We just announced the topic. Okay, it's gonna be X Factor Heroes. He brings his, I bring mine, and we're polar opposites in many respects, but we always manage to somehow be on the same page when it comes to this podcast. So you're talking about a wartime leader who is a hero. And what I'm talking about are many, many heroes. I'm going to lump them all into one group who didn't realize they were wartime heroes because they didn't realize at the time there was a war. And the people I'm talking about are the passengers on Flight 93 on September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
That was the fourth and final plane that got hijacked. I think the first plane hit the Pentagon, and then you had the two hit the World Trade Centers, or maybe it went the other way. The two hit the Trade Centers, and almost immediately after, Pentagon got hit, right? And there's this fourth plane that was bound for San Francisco. So from Newark, New Jersey. Just think about how much fuel it takes to get from Newark to San Francisco. This thing was loaded up with fuel, as all of them were, because they wanted them basically to be enormous, essentially flying bombs, right?
Right.
So Flight 93 actually hit the ground in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. However, as it was flying through airspace in central Pennsylvania, it was being hijacked and was going to be headed to to crash straight into, they believe it would be the Capitol building. I'm not sure if Senate and Congress was in session at that moment or not, but I imagine it was either the Capitol or the White House, right? And there's one famous hero from that flight, and that's Todd Beamer, simply because they managed to capture a recording of him on either the phone on the seat back or on his cell phone calling his wife, and then calling a telephone switchboard operator and leaving the phone on the hook. So there'd be data, a recording captured of what was happening. And they had planned to charge the 4 terrorists and prevent them from taking it wherever they were going to take it. But at that point, one of these guys had been on the phone with, I guess, someone from the one, switchboard of the airline. Anyway, they knew what happened with the other 3 planes. So they knew this is a foregone conclusion that they're going to crash into something. This wasn't just a bunch of terrorists who were going to kidnap these people and hold them ransom for money and then let them go. This was, like a suicide mission. And these guys made their plans. These are everyday Americans who are on business trips, going to visit family, whatever the case might have been. And they made their plans to take action and attack these 4 terrorists who were wearing red bandanas to cover their faces. Like, why do you even need to cover your face at this point? You're on a mission and you know it's going to end in death. Why wear a mask, right? Why hide your identity? Anyway, they had box cutters and bandanas, and they had charged the cockpit and somehow blasted the cockpit door open. It's really interesting, all the people on this flight. Like the pilot was really young, the co-pilot was fairly young. Interesting fact: the pilot had been flying longer than he'd been driving. He always wanted to be a pilot. His name was Jason Dahl, Dahl, and he was 13 years old when he started taking flying lessons. Who knew you could even do that, right? I certainly didn't. But just a lot of average Joes.
Yep.
Just like you and me and Parker and probably everyone listening to this podcast. And they just decided, we can't let this happen. This is not going to happen. This is not the way our story ends. And they forced them to take that thing into a field in Pennsylvania instead of into the Capitol building or the White House. The FBI at one point was on the phone with Todd Beamer and the switchboard operator, Lisa Jefferson. And they basically said, I don't know if you know it or not, but your plane's turned around and you're not headed towards your original destination. You're headed towards DC. And that's when they knew they had to act. And those are the famous last words were, "Let's roll," by Todd Beamer. And, a lot of the passengers had left voicemails or called their spouses and family members. And if you go to the Flight 93 Memorial website, you can listen to some of those recordings. And that's something I like to do every September 11th, just as a reminder that you don't have to be a Navy SEAL. You don't have to be a highly decorated officer, a first responder, CEO of a Fortune 500 company to lead and take action or do something heroic. You don't need to be a sports star. You can just be an average Joe who's on a mission to make sure something gets done or something, in this case, doesn't happen. And I just think these people are all in their own ways X Factor heroes. There are probably too many of them to mention name by name by name, but I think every single passenger on that flight, and it was a small flight, there were only like 44 people, including the crew and the terrorists, as well as the passengers and the pilot. 44 people on that flight.
It's crazy.
But yeah, I just think it's a great lesson and a great reminder to everybody. People tend to think like you have to do big things in big places, to be a hero, or like think of the word heroic. Some amazing big deed. It isn't necessarily an amazing big deed. You can do big things in small places and have a really major local impact. But it starts with just making a decision and taking action. And that's what it's a bittersweet story, that Flight 93 story, but that's what I love about it. And those guys are all heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
This just took a real serious twist.
I know, but I did wear this particular shirt. I don't know if you see it. It's probably backwards, but Shipmate. And because it is Rob O'Neill, it puts out this shirt, and he was the Navy SEAL who shot Bin Laden right in the head, and said, FU to from America. There you go. We brought justice to him like we said we were going to do. So Rob O'Neill is one of my heroes for what he did. He answered. He, like you said, those pastors didn't know we were at war, and they started the war. And
my favorite drink is something that Rob O'Neill created. It's called a Bin Laden.
I've never heard of it.
It's 2 shots of splash of water.
I love it. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and shout out to Rob O'Neill,
Yep.
Navy SEAL, all around badass. And he put a hole in Bin Laden's head and made me happy, made a lot of Americans happy. He did a little payback for what we got sucker punched on 9/11.
Yep.
And it took us a long time to find him, but eventually it ended right. So
I think
so now you all see what I mean when I said like these guys are war heroes. They just didn't know they were, at the forefront of a war on
Right.
terror. They're
Right.
probably the original war heroes in the war on terror.
right.
It's amazing.
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
interesting thing about Rob O'Neill is if you look at him, it's probably holds true for a lot of Navy SEALs. You look at them, and many of them you would never guess. That guy's a Navy SEAL. He's a member of SEAL Team 6. Looks like the average Joe.
Yep.
He's not like some hulking, behemoth of a man who looks like NFL tight end or something like that. Just average looking person doing extraordinary thing. Ordinary person doing extraordinary things.
Yep. Answered the call and he delivered. He did what every American was hoping he would do. And he basically, Bin Laden woke us up on that day. And at the end of the day, it didn't end too well for him.
No.
Not at all.
It does amaze me how long it took us to find him.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I never thought it would take that long. I always expected at some point we'd hear that we'd found him and killed him within the first few years. I was shocked it took as long as it did.
Yeah.
Yep. But it was under Obama when we finally got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
The amazing thing was Clinton had a chance to take that guy out before all this ever happened.
Yeah.
And just chose not to. He just sat on his hands.
Yep.
There's a Monica Lewinsky joke in there somewhere, but maybe he didn't sit on his hands. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's the crew, the crew of that flight, Flight 93, really they didn't know they were going to be heroes that day. They thought they were traveling. And, I think traveling has changed, at least for me after that. I do a lot of business travel, and I know for the longest time, I was watching everybody getting on the flight.
I still do.
I probably have let my guard down a little bit now, but certainly in those early years, you were watching everybody.
Yep. And I think one of the unfortunate things with air travel is they've monetized everything.
Yeah.
It's not the able-bodied people who sit in the emergency row anymore. It's, the morbidly obese person who can't squeeze into a regular seat, but is willing to pay a little more to sit in that kind of plus-sized row, or just someone who has long legs and wants to pay for the comfort, who could be, an elderly man who just happens to be really tall. So the airlines have kind of monetized everything, as opposed to, I don't even know where I was going with this other than just kind of my general frustration with that industry, as opposed to really being concerned about, they've kind of, I guess I'm saying they've kind of lost their way. And, that speaks to, again, being vigilant. And, I make sure that, whenever I travel, I get a seat in the aisle, next to the aisle, because I want to be, I'd like to think of myself as fairly able-bodied still. If someone has to get up and react and respond, to something, I'm going to be right there in the aisle to be able to do that, and I just, I don't know. I think we've all gotten kind of lazy and life's a little too easy. We're not as vigilant as we once were. And, we you kind of reap what you sow with that, not to get too terribly philosophical on you, but I do worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things have,
No,
we're so comfortable and things are so convenient that we can create all sorts of faux outrage about things that don't matter on social media. We're canceling Mr. Potato Head. That's how good we have it in this country. That we need something to be outraged over. We're going to cancel a children's toy.
it was the first transgender toy.
Mhm.
All you got to do is just pop things.
Yeah.
Right. We should
Good.
have celebrated it.
But no, I do worry that, we're not being very vigilant. We become, so we have this war on terror, which is still going on, but to think we haven't been at war with China is insane. Yet we are so overly reliant on them, our supply chain, medication, prescription drugs, medical devices, just about everything that gets manufactured that is essential that we need. We're beholden to them because they can manufacture it at the lowest price.
Yep.
Hey, during a pandemic, they don't necessarily have to ship it to us.
Well, we learned that the hard way.
But did we learn it, John? Or
Oh,
are we just going to kind of go back to, the pandemic's over? Well, yeah, no. We'll just keep those relationships up as opposed to bringing the manufacturing base back to the U.S.
Well, I think it comes with a lot of things. When you don't have a problem for a long period of time, everybody just sort of ignores it and doesn't think about it. I work in the electrical industry, right? Nobody even thinks about the electrical grid. They just assume, well, I turn the lights on, it comes on, right? Everything's good. And Superstorm Sandy happened and there was major blackouts in the Northeast, and we realized it was because of crumbling infrastructure. And then suddenly everyone was like, well, we got to do something about it. We can't have this. We got to put utilities underground. We got to do this. And there was excitement for about 2 years, 3 years, and that's it. And now we're back to crumbling infrastructure and no one's spending the money. And so we go back to our comfort zone. And this is why I always challenge leaders. I said, don't get too comfortable in anything you do in your life. You got to do hard things. You got to challenge yourself. You got to do difficult things so you get out of your comfort zone. You continue to grow and learn.
Got it. Put your shopping cart back in the corral in the parking lot.
No, I disagree.
No? You don't?
I disagree.
See, this is a little inside baseball. If you don't follow the two of us on Twitter, John's got it so good and so comfortable. He's living in the lap of luxury so much. He decided to be faux outraged by a tweet I made about people not putting their cart back in the cart corral in the parking lot.
Right. You say that if you're un-American if you don't put your cart back in your cart stall.
No, I didn't say un-American. I said I can't imagine us being able to make America great again if we can't even put our carts back in the cart corral.
Right.
And what I mean by that is I don't mean un-America. I just mean like attention to detail and doing the little things well. That's what's going to make us great. That's as an individual, as a community, as a society. How you do anything's how you do everything, kids.
I don't disagree with that, but my alternate take is on this is that young people need challenging things to do. They need hard things to do. If they want to become more resilient adults, they have to have rough times when they're young. And I believe leaving my cart in random places and making them get it and line them up and do it in the rainstorm and what have you, I give those young people difficult situations so they grow and they become more resilient adults and less fragile. So I'm doing it to help the country as well.
So you're assuming it is a young, able-bodied person who's in charge of putting those carts back. I can't tell you how many times it's been like a middle-aged woman or a little old man at my local grocery store who has to move those carts.
Well, if I ever see it's a middle-aged man, or well, I'm not in Maine, so some moxie drinking old lady. No, in the South, it's usually young people that are doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I might be think differently if it was someone else. But
Do you lecture them when you do it? I'm going to leave my cart in the middle of this parking space, you little whippersnapper, because when I was your age and I worked at the general store,
yeah,
I had to move 80-pound stainless steel shopping carts with square wheels a mile uphill to put 100 of them a mile uphill in a foot of snow to put them in the cart corral. You need to
Yeah.
learn how to do tough things, son.
that would be good.
Is that what you say to them? I bet that's what you say to them.
I don't, but I leave them a gift of learning, a gift of hard work.
Good. I'm proud of you.
I don't really do it, but I do think
I've
that's
never been more proud of you.
that would be an alternate idea.
Very alternate.
Yeah, that's an area of debate. Another debate. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. Construction's happening. You've got 4 lanes of traffic coming down to 3.
Yep.
Do you get over early, or you go all the way to the end and come in over as late as possible?
The research indicates that if you come in hot and late as possible,
Yes.
there's more efficiency and it's actually faster for everyone.
Thank you. It is. But we get mad at that person that stays in the lane until the last minute.
I think they're doing the world a favor when
You're
they do
doing the
that.
world a favor.
And I try and be that person too.
Yes, yes. And again, it's counter thinking. It's thinking differently, but
Mhm.
in fact,
That's
it's
what
the
we
most
do on this
efficient-
podcast.
It's the most efficient use of the roadway. You're using up every ounce of that roadway before it gets small. If you all get over in the beginning, then you're wasting the road. You're not utilizing the road efficiently.
I bet Dick O'Kane did that with his Oldsmobile.
Oh, he went right.
He
went
left
right to
lane
the end.
all the way to the end.
Yeah.
But you also have to think, like, especially here in North Carolina, it's like when you're going to like Raleigh or something, those like merges, like the merge lanes and such,
Yeah.
they go on for a while.
Yeah.
You can stay in those merge lanes for a while, or even the exit lanes.
Yep. Yep. Utilize the space, people.
Yeah.
That's coming from a submariner.
So one last sort of philosophical question. And again, we've been goofing around a lot. I want to, this is going to take a serious turn. Your choice of utensils when eating ice cream cake. Is ice cream cake eaten with a fork or a spoon?
Oh gosh. Well, it depends on how long has the ice cream cake been sitting out.
You don't know that information.
So I just walk in the room, it's there, I open it up, and it is what it is.
Parker, we're serving ice cream cake for dessert tonight. Please set the table.
I'm doing fork.
I'm doing a fork.
Fork. Yeah.
The thing is, I will choose a fork.
You two have failed me.
I know. I will always choose a fork over a spoon. In any case, I will. Chili would be the random exception where I like a spoon.
So you go cereal, you go fork.
I don't eat cereal, but yeah.
Oatmeal, you go fork.
You know what? I'll go spork.
Either.
Grits, you go fork.
I don't eat grits, but I'm
No
mostly
self-respecting Southerner doesn't eat grits. Come on now.
I just don't have it in the diet right now.
It's not in the macros.
Not in the macros.
That's the pre-workout.
And it's not a spork. It is the inventor of the spork was. We were gonna always remember that.
I knew you'd. Yeah, I knew you wouldn't remember.
It was
payback though for choosing fork.
It's in X Factor Inventions, episode number 16.
It was Dick Cocaine.
No.
Now
I feel guilty for calling him that. He's a military hero. So, Dick, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Richard. So this has been X Factor Heroes.
Francis.
And this has been a fun podcast. We sometimes start off serious and it takes a twist and a turn. Sometimes we start off a little silly and it gets serious. You just never know what you're going to get with us. You know,
Nope.
you never know. Like we're like a mullet, business in the front, party in the back. You just don't know what we're going to reveal. So I want to remind you that if you have enjoyed this podcast, one of the best things you can do for us is to hit that little thumbs up button and like it. That's how other people can learn about it and discover us. Subscribe and share it up. This podcast in its entirety, which is brought to you by Bottom Gun Coffee, bottomguncoffee.com, has been our free gift to you. It's not free for us, it's free for you. It costs us time, money, and resources to bring it to you. And the best thing you can do to sort of bring good karma into the universe and pay it forward is to share it and tell others. Help us grow the channel, and that allows us to continue to bring this to you in the manner in which you become accustomed. We've spoiled you with this shit. Let's face it.
Yeah.
We're how many episodes in? And this is the
23 episodes are online. This will be the 26th.
This is the greatest podcast that most people have never heard of.
Yeah.
That's
your fault, listeners. That's your fault.
Hey, those who live in glass houses shouldn't. What's the expression?
Shouldn't pee on the wall.
Yeah, something about throw stones maybe or cast the first stone. I don't know. Anyway, until I see you promoting this more, I don't think you should be berating my beloved listeners, our fans.
Oh, it's my fault?
Huh?
It's my fault?
100%.
I have it on my Twitter page as a pinned link, a pinned tweet.
I just retweet whatever you post or Parker posts. So I'm doing my part. I'm pulling my weight.
All right.
And yours, apparently, which is why my back hurts all the time. Parker, P1, P2, P3. Talk to us about this.
Preset 1, preset 2, preset 3.
Yeah.
But that's like the old terminology. Nowadays, we're just going to say check your penis, be a P1 listener. And subscribe, follow. Like, to be a P1, you gotta be subscribed, you gotta be following us, you gotta be retweeting, commenting. Just take it from James Elliott.
Engaged.
Yeah,
yes,
get engaged.
Exactly.
I mean, not get married, but get engaged.
Yeah.
No, don't get married. Why buy the cow when you get the milk for free?
Anyway, P2 listeners are average listeners.
Furthermore, is she really worth half everything you own, guys?
You have to think about it. Think
anyway,
hard.
just okay. I guess the lesson to be learned is just be a P1 listener. I think
that's what we're looking for. Good boy.
Yeah.
Solid work. There you have it. There it is. This has been the X Factor Podcast, brought to you by Bottom Gun Coffee, bottomguncoffee.com. Do all those things we told you to do, and we'll see you in the next show.